Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you may be joining us from. My name is Pete Diffley. I'm the Senior Manager for Global Partnerships for Trihedral. We'd like to welcome you along today to the Automation Village breakout sessions. This is the reporting and analytics stream. So we're delighted to have you here. We have three really good presentations in this stream during the next hour. So we're very excited to have you each. During the whole piece, you can change stream as well. So there's links in your invite that allow you to change stream. So you're not stuck to one stream. That's the way we've tried to do this. So there's actually going to be 9 presentations today over the next 3 hours. So we're delighted that you're choosing to spend your time with us. We do appreciate that very much. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome our first guest. So do we have Shane Gushue and also Pierre Archambault? And we got you, we have both of you there, exactly. Yeah, cool, good to see you guys. How are you?
Good, how are you, Peter?
Doing great, thanks.
Excellent, thank you. How about you?
Yeah, doing great. I was going to say, comment ça va, Pierre?
Ça va très bien, merci.
Ah, ouais.
Mais en fait, Shane aussi parle français quand même très bien.
Ah, oui, un petit peu. Yeah, I speak French badly. Very much out of practice. But anyway, so it's really good to have you both here. So our first presenters are from Omron. And Omron, as I'm sure all of you know, on this is a real automation industry leader, and it has created all kinds of equipment going from robotics, sensing, motion, logic, safety, and lots more. So, so Shane Gushue is he's actually from you're a graduate, I think, from St. Francis Xavier University in Antigonish, is it in Nova Scotia? That's where you are.
That's right, Antigonish.
Oh, sorry, got it all wrong. Antigonish.
Yeah.
Okay. Nova Scotia. There we go. And so you actually joined Omron as well, Shane. It's going back to 2017, I think, is it?
It's been a couple of years now, yeah. So definitely a very interesting company, lots of cool technologies.
Fantastic, absolutely, yeah. And Shane, you're going to be joined as well. Well, I should say you're the territory account manager for the Atlantic provinces and the Gaspé Peninsula. That's I should have said that too.
Yes,
yes,
a little part of Quebec as my territory as well. So yeah, so I cover the Atlantic region, and Pierre is one of our technical guys out of the Montreal office, and he's my kind of primary support for all things PLC.
Very good, and Pierre, and welcome as well. So Pierre, you're a specialist mechatronics. Yeah, mechatronics.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah.
Motion.
To put my false teeth back in this morning, you know, I haven't had a coffee yet, so.
But mechatronics is also it's a merge between mechanic and electronics, so it's motion.
Motion control as well. Exactly. Fantastic. So you actually joined Omron going right back to 1986, I believe.
Yeah, that
your
makes me old, I guess. Yeah, my first life. I've had 2 lives with Omron. First life was from 86 to 2003. I was a first application engineer for the Eastern region, and I left, started my own venture, joined back 9 years ago, yeah, as a motion specialist then, yeah. Very
good, very good. Excellent. Well, we're delighted to have you guys along as well. And so, yeah, our attendees are in, and I'd just like to say that you're going to be doing something on, it's reducing PC usage in SCADA networks, and also covering new predictive maintenance technologies. That's the title of your presentation. So we're going to have about 40 minutes for your presentation. There'll be 10 minutes after that for Q&A, and about 10 minutes after that to allow our attendees get up, stretch your legs, go and get a coffee like I need, and then you can come back in as well. So during this session, I just want to remind our attendees as well that that there's also, excuse me, I'm not going too far, but you can actually ask questions just by clicking on the Q&A. It's the Q&A button you see at the bottom of your screen, and click on that, and you can type in like a kind of like a chat into that. But please use the Q&A, and ask questions at any point during the presentation. So I'm going to stop sharing, and so Pierre, you're going to take control.
Yep.
And go for it. So thank you.
Trying to, okay, sharing screen 1. Boom.
Great. And we
see my screen.
We can do.
Great.
Excellent.
Thank you. So today's presentation is twofold. The first one is really about our PLC as a SQL client, and the second one is predictive maintenance that ties into data reporting for the SQL part. Let's go started. So our controllers have recently gained the power of being an SQL client to put along your controls and reporting information directly to databases. So we'll explore that in the next couple of slides. First of all, the SYSMAC platform is a fairly new platform. Well, it's 9 years old now with Omron, but compared to the C platform that we used to have, the CJs, the C200As, the CS1s that are out there for ages now. These are register-based or address-based controllers. Recently, in 2011, Omron introduced the SYSMAC platform, which is object-oriented, tag-based controllers with much more power under the hood. And the SYSMAC world, the SYSMAC platform encompasses a lot of technologies that all tie in together on the same controller via the same application, which is called SYSMAC Studio. It's our go-to development IDE that we support now. And through that, you can control motion, vision, measurement, HMIs, and a lot of other things along the way. So with our new controllers, one controller does it all. It does logic, motion, vision, and safety. And we like to coin that it's also an IIoT device, which is an industrial Internet of Things encompassing SQL and OPC UA. So this is a topic for the first part of this presentation. This is a family picture. So we go all the way down from an NX1P, which is a sugar cube type controller with built-in IOs with K6CM connection that can be expanded. Sorry. And also we go to the NJ135 and NX7. And the one we'll be concentrating on today is the NX102, which is around here. It's a mid-range controller with up to 8 axes of motion. This is how we, 12 axes. This is how we measure the power of our controller, the number of axes you purchase from the certain class. So this new controller is also an SQL client as an option. So here is a picture among the other models, certain only are SQL clients. So you have to see a 20 in the second part of the serial number or the model number, like 19, 20, 10, 20, 11, 20, and so on. So the first number describes the axis count, and the second part of the number is either a 0 or a 20, telling you that it's an SQL client inside the controller. So if you look at the NX102, it can connect to 2 databases at the same time, whereas the NJ101 is only 1, and the 5 and the 7 are 3 connections. You could really connect to 3 different databases at 3 different IP addresses with those controllers, but we'll consider it on the NX102, which is only 2. Spooling capacity, we'll discuss that later on, and the number of map variable is 30. That means you can connect or have up to 30 different connections or logical connection to that database to read and write data from it. So why do you need an SQL client in your PLC? Well, the basic thing is to reduce or remove the need for a middleman that will take care of this function. And by doing so, you cut your costs, you lower your design costs, and you also reduce your maintenance, and you don't have to worry about Windows upgrades and Windows crashing and so on and so forth. And we do have a local spooling, I can mention, for continuous data logging, even though there's no actual connection to a given database. So from before and after, we'll see later on that it's a innate solution. So before or without an SQL client within your controller, you're bound to use a middleware PC with certain application there that I won't name here, but usually these are subsequent of PC maintenance Windows update, virus protection, and middleware programming. So you need more code somewhere, and you need an extra computer to do the data collection and to service the database. Whereas with the PLC, all of that is gone. All you have to do is program your PLC with standard function blocks. It's like any other ladder. All you have to do is use the different function blocks and the data sets that are out there to connect to the database directly. And we can also connect information from various PLCs around your plant. So this is one example of SQL controller as a data concentrator, where we just install controller within the actual plant, and we can collect IO from Omron's own PLCs and remote IO for what it be, and also through Ethernet IP and even serial. I did even a system for a customer where he had a Wi-Fi remote serial ports throughout his machines, and all I did is I collected that information inside the controller via communication and certain protocol, and then send the information up to the database. So we have different types of solution, and we can accommodate for existing system, piggyback on existing system, or even brand new systems where we collect information at the base. And that information can be shared with other controllers, because you can not only send information to the database, but also query information for your recipes and to acquire information from jobs to do today and who is working on the machine, for instance, for credentials. So if we have a disconnection, we have local spooling functions. So there's up to 1 megabyte of information that you can spool before you have to reconnect to the database. And as a secondary option, we can also do flat files within the controller. So that flat file will be residing into an SD card that's part of the controller. And from there on, whenever the connection is back, you can read that that flat file from the SD card and send it up to the database. And it's very easy and a quick configuration to connect. So all you have to do is create a client on your database and provide the PLC with that same name of obviously, and a password for the database connection, the IP address, and there's a test button to say whether the database accept your connections or not. So at the get-go, you can find if you're connected or connectable to the database, and then it's just function blocks afterward. We also have introduced stored procedures. Instead of having to read and write information to the database and expose the database to wrong programming or to improper operations, we use stored procedures. And that pushes all the logic and all the testing at the database side, which is more potent to do that, obviously. So on this next slide, you can see that on the left side, all you have to do is read information, call the procedure. The procedure is checked. So we're verifying inside the database. All your IT programmers will do that and will prefer that to do the data formatting, checking if what is receiving from the arguments to the stored procedure are correctly set up, and then do the process and return the information to the PLC. So you're not going to the vault to get money when you go at the bank. You just ask the teller to give you the information and do the transaction for you. And that's the same analogy here. It's time for a live demonstration. So let me go to my SQL database. As you can see here, I have an SQL database installed in my laptop, in my computer, and I can select information in temperature, voltage, and current, and I can ask for that right now. And this is information that is populated from, C, select. Boom, can be. So this selection here gives me the information that is inside the database itself. But if I go to my HMI on my laptop, this one, the other one, I got two open here. So this is a view of my HMI. I have a VNC client inside my HMI, which allows me to connect to it remotely from window. And you can see here, I'm already connected to my database. What am I collecting in that information are temperatures, voltage, and current from my power supply. And we'll see that later on in the second part of the presentation. So let's look at the actual screen of what I've got to show you here. This is the video feed from, not this one, again, this one. This is my demo case. So you see at the bottom here, I do have some thermocouples inside here that I can squeeze and let the temperature go up you can see on the screen here. Okay, so when data is inserted from, with the press of this button, I'm just pushing new records inside the database from the value that you see in the blue square. And I can also query information. So voltage greater or equal than 24.3 volts, send or sort the values by current, ascending, and select data. So now I'm pulling information from the database of whatever the records were where the voltage was equal or greater than 24.3 volt, which is fairly high on my power supply. So let's lower that a little bit, just to 24 volts, period, and ask again. And now you'll see that I'll get a lot more information. So depending on your system, you can query the database and you can also push information inside the database. And that is all done in structured text for me because I like to program in structured text. This is part of the program. It's simple information, simple function blocks throughout the program to do your insert, your select, and so on and so forth. So it's fairly easy and fairly straightforward operation. And it's programmed at the PLC level. So it's for everyday programmer, they can access information to the database and update database directly. So on top of that, we also have introduced OPC UA servers inside our controllers. The NX102 is one of the first one that has this server inside. And what this will bring to you is encrypted data. So you can read and write information from the PLC with clients that are OPC UA compatible, and ensure yourself that you have encrypted information, transaction over the web, the internet, and have a secure data. So nobody can really do sniffing on your information or modifying your data or stealing your information because it's all encrypted at 256-bit level. So it's a certificate type in the transaction, just like you do with your phone and your bank directly. So this is another screen of the same information where we have the OPC UA built in with security to protect your data. So the payoff is no middleware inside the system to connect to your PLC using OPC UA. It's similar to the SQL, but different in a way because it's a connection less information. There's no charge for the server. It's built into the controllers NX102 from, even though it doesn't have the SQL client built in. And it ensures you that you have a security about your data integrity and also access to your data. There's nobody that can steal it from you directly. So here's a table of comparison between the two. So if you have an SQL client, is it secure? Not yet. We have certificates on the way for that aspect for the NJ or NX SQL client will be secured soon, sometime this summer. On OPC UA, yes, the certificate is there. So your security for your transaction or your communication from reading the value of your PLC are secured. Connectivity for the SQL, yes. For the NJ OPC UA, you can have your connection from your MES systems or your SCADAs out there. It can be connected as a secured client. So that being said, let's go to the predictive maintenance part of the presentation, where we're going to look at different solutions to monitor your equipment. So you can read and write information from the database. You can read do your traceability in your production systems. You can monitor that very easily with our controllers. But what about what's outside of the control panel, like motors, for instance? So if you're not careful about monitoring your large assets, you can have some problems with failures or unseen failures, and these could be very, very costly. So predictive maintenance is key to be able to survive and prevent those very costly breakdown. So some companies, large companies, if they have a breakdown on certain equipment, they can cost as much as $250,000 per hour, apparently, depending on some surveys. And what are the critical assets we want you to monitor with our new hardware is, well, electrical motors, hydraulic pumps, cooling pumps, switch gears, conveyors. All the big assets in your plants can be monitored with our new devices that we're introducing. And the main cause of failures are sometimes improper use, but lack of maintenance, wear and tear, misalignment, corrosion and temperature, water damage, different types of damage that you can prevent or see ahead of time with our monitoring devices. And our solutions are fairly, again, easy to install, like a plug and play, like the Nest cameras of this world, where the application is simple to install and use, compared to the more elaborate systems that exist also, where you need a skilled installer or somebody that will be helping you to do that and is being paid for that as well. So we have three segments in this part of the presentation. The first one will be on power supply monitor. So power supplies have been are the heart of your control panel. They will pump the current through the different devices that they power up at a certain pressure, which is the voltage. And we need to monitor that to make sure that your power supplies are healthy and they still have some lives within. By that, I mean to say that the power supply will age with time, and they will age faster if they are abused. If there's too much current being drawn and they're used to their limit, then they will age prematurely. So at the beginning, power supplies had no display or no information. So you use them, that's it. Recently, Omron has introduced power supplies with displays. So that display will show you the actual voltage, current. You can cycle through the different values that's shown by a dip switch or a push button in the front. But if your control panel is closed, well, that visual, you don't have that visual anymore, and you'd have to open the panel. That means you have to expose yourself to arc flash and so on. So reading those values is cumbersome and difficult. So we have introduced power supplies with an Ethernet IP connection or Modbus TCP connection. By default, we use Ethernet IP, which is easier for our controller, and therefore you can monitor your power supply from remote. That gives you a constant 24/7 monitoring of your power supply. You can predict whether it's going to be requiring a maintenance or a replacement soon, because it has a built-in aging system where it gives you how many months or year or % of its service life being utilized. And it's very, it's user-friendly programming, again, as they would a Windows application. So there's a couple of ways you can use it. Again, with the PC, with a Windows-based control application from Omron, which is free. You can also use your own SCADA package because it's a Modbus server. You can read and write the variables from the Modbus registers. We have a PLC application with HMI front end, and also it's an Ethernet connection. So all you have to do is use a switch and connect to X amount of power supplies in your system. Live demo again. So let's go to this guy here. No, this is the wrong one again. Okay, in here we have an HMI view of my control panel. And this view here will give us voltage, current, peak current, remaining life value, running hours of my power supply with a bar graph here of the actual voltage and current that are being drawn. So if I use my, again, wrong one, sorry, this one, you can see right here we have a power supply. So we have a power supply up here showing you the voltage, and if I press on the button, you can see it's going current and peak amps and also so on and so forth. Full year, full life at this point in time. If I show you the other screens, if I have to go to here to the power supply, here. So we have a power supply monitoring software. And in this software, which is free, you can create control panel or zone in your plant. And in that zone, you see different power supplies. My demo case, because I've got two different power supplies on this system here, and the one in the monitor panel. So if I just do like this and I change the voltage output of my power supply, you'll see it change just as well on the screen at the same time. So 24.3, so it goes up, and I can lower it down a little bit. And as you see, the current will also change as well. If I go to the screen here of this value, you can see the little bumps I've done in the power voltage and the similar reaction on the current down here. So this graph will record the information on a file in your PC in real time. And as well here, you can see on this one, the zone where I'm using it. So it's not being abused either in temperature or in load percent, because it's in the black zone here. But if it was in the red zone, then it would reduce the life of my power supply by that much. The next part is the motor control monitoring system. So these are meant to monitor your motors inside your plant again, in real life, on real time. So depending on the type of sensors you use, we can monitor your motors in 3 different ways. So we can monitor the load conditions. If your load is imbalanced, if there's some debris in your pump, it's drawing more current, the current clamp and the associated monitoring relay will give you your percentage of load and your information about the health of your motor. The vibration one in the center will verify the wear and tear of your bearings in your motor, or if you use pillow blocks for a fan or something else, it can monitor vibration. It doesn't have to be really a motor itself, but also could be the load of the motor that will be monitored with temperature and vibration. And the last one is insulation breakdown. So if your motor has some water ingress and rust inside, there will be a breakdown of the coils inside, and the insulation current will be monitored with that third clamp here. So the overload condition, again, with these systems, we can monitor motors up to 40 volts, up to 300 kilowatt or 407 horsepower for that matter, up to 600 amps. So we have CT clamps that we put on one phase of your motor, maybe powered by an inverter or a contactor, we don't care, but we're looking at the current sine wave. And if we see that the sine wave is abnormal, then where there's a degradation level, we trigger an alarm, and this alarm can be hardwired to the actual output on this relay, or can be monitored with the Ethernet IP connection. Again, with a vibration, similar situation, we just look at the vibration and temperature of your motor housing with the use of a bolted on sensor. All you have to do is provide a nut on or a connection or a physical attachment on your motor, and then you can monitor vibration and also monitor the temperature of your motor and or pillow block. And the last one is the insulation breakdown. Normally, to verify the insulation breakdown, you need to open the junction box, unwire the motor from the main or from the supply, and then you use your home or your Megger or your homing checker. By doing so, Omron allows you to connect directly on the motor with a 3-phase current clamp and do the math inside the relay to verify if there's leakage down to the ground of your motor. And again, that is done in real time, obviously. Demonstration time. So here I have a monitoring, that's the power one, sorry. I'm gonna kill this one here because I doesn't. This one here is the motor monitoring system. So it's monitoring the acceleration and the actual velocity of the motor, but this one is not turning right now, obviously. So let's turn on the motors. Let's go to the actual demonstration page, monitoring. So again, on this HMI I have here, actual values from my motor vibration and so on. So if I run the motor, you can probably hear it from my microphone. Now I do have some vibration and velocity being shown on this display here, as well as on this graph. And it will give you actually the percentage of acceleration and the velocity of your vibration directly on the graph, telling you that you may have some issues with your actual motor at this point in time. And again, this information is logged with the file here on your PC if you're using the Windows-based application, or you can monitor and report that into your controller with your SQL connection if there's an SQL on your PLC. to the PowerPoint. So the benefit is we offer you 24/7 monitoring of your motor condition, same as we did with the power supply. It really eliminates the need of a manual motor inspection. You don't necessarily have to go down inside on the plant floor level or go down in the pits for the pumps and so on. You can use that software and connect multiple motors throughout your plant via Ethernet to them. And it's going to give you different type of connection or monitoring values of your motors, obviously. Again, very simple, easy to install. All you have to do is mount the hardware inside your control panel, bolt your current clamps on the wires, or the actual temperature vibration monitor sensor directly on the motor head or the pillow block. Lastly, we have the thermal condition monitor. This is a neat device because it allows you to do your thermographic measuring in real time. So apparently, industrial fires occur very often in the US, about 37,000 every year in the US. I don't have Canadian numbers, but that's what we got from a website, and accordingly to describe that the fires are most of the leading cause of the fire are electrical distribution and lighting equipment catching fire because there are either loose connections inside the control panels, or they're abused, there's too much current per wire, or the wires are degrading, their insulation is breaking down with time because they dry out and they spark down to ground and they cause fire. To prevent that, here are the different type of pictures of situation where you have a loose connection that eats up and the connector block will finally melt or catch fire. We have also contactors that can be the source of a fire. Solid state relays, if they're overheating, they can explode and catch fire. Variable frequency drives, transformers, and whatnot. So what we're offering is a system with actual PIR camera inside your control panel. They're very tiny cameras. I'll show you on my demo here. And you can mount up to 31 per relay. They're all daisy chain on RS-45. And they will look at your panel inside from because they can be magnet in the back. They can be connected or mounted on the control panel door. And once the door is closed, it will look inside in real life and show you a matrix of your temperatures, and it'll give you an image of where are the hotspots in your panel, like you can see on the free PC software that we also offer. And obviously they have a dry contact alarm for a beacon on your control panel if you need to do so. So we can detect assets or hotspots in your critical assets from switch gears, from hydraulic pumps, terminal blocks inside your control panel, pillow block, or any junction or couplings that may heat up because they flex too much, and if they heat up too high, they will degrade and probably break down. Again, another live demo. So this is the this one here. Oh, I'll come up. Here it is. So if I go back here, this application allows you to connect multiple relays, multiple detectors, and inside the detector, you can go into details and see the current temperature mapping. And it's broken down into 16 sections from 0 to 15, with actually sub-cells and average of each sub-cell. So you can just move your mouse over one cell and see the actual temperature of that part, and see that there are also blue or colder section. But what are we looking at? The camera is looking at something inside my control panel, but if I click on the measure range here, you can attach a picture of the section where the camera is really looking at. So if I go back to the thermal image, you can see the top of my IO rack is hotter than the bottom, because you see there are electronics here and LEDs being turned on. These are creating more heat than the actual terminals there. But if there was a hot spot or too much current on this wire and it would be used or abused, then the thermal image would most likely show me a line here showing that these segments are too hot. And you can also readjust the ranging to improve your image. And also we have threshold that can be calculated automatically according to the room temperature inside your control panel. Let me show you the actual camera and the size. This one here, yeah. So this is the section it was looking at, and this is the actual camera that's mounted on a magnet here on the side of this little handmade bracket. I did that because if I close the panel, you won't see inside, obviously. So by putting this back up here in the right place, it should be looking at the proper section of the software. Let me do this again, like this. So you can see that if I move that, the actual image, temperature image will change, and I can see different aspect of your control panel. Give it a few seconds, and it's going to update and then show you a new area. So this can allow you to see several regions. It's a 90-degree field of view. That means if you're at 8 inches from your devices, it's going to be 16 by 16 inches of view, or area of view, field of view of your camera. Again, if we look at our panel monitor view on this HMI, we also have the ability to show you the actual picture on an HMI, just giving you all the pixels back in temperature and give you your alarms, obviously, as we need to see. So you don't have to have the application. It could be made inside your control panel by the PLC looking at the different cells. We just provide an array of points inside the PLC with all the different temperatures. So the benefits, again, is reducing the cost of your inspections, because you need to send somebody or hire an electrician to go through your different control panel on a monthly or 6 month or twice a year. And within that time span, something can happen. And it's also very costly. He has to dress up in an arc flash suit to open your control panels and expose himself to danger. Whereas those cameras, they will do that in real life, in real time inside your control panel at a reduced cost. And you can have an actual picture of what's going on at any given time of the day. Well, this is it.
That was really fascinating. Great job, Pierre.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
sharing or?
Yeah, I know that's wonderful. So one attendee had asked, have you considered online condition monitoring of moisture in transformers also? And they're referring to moisture in oil, of course. And they were just wondering if...
No, not that I know of, no.
Yeah.
These are the devices we have at the current time. If Omron is designing new stuff, I am not aware of.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything around that type of technology yet either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know we have some IO-Link pressure sensors and flow meters and stuff like that, but they're not released here in North America. Sure,
no problem. And someone is asking what's the cost. And by the way, actually, if people can make sure you type into the Q&A, not into the webinar chat. I nearly missed that, so just make sure you type in, please, into the question and answer section. But very good. Okay, so sorry about that. Yeah, so the question was, what's the cost? I'm not sure. Is it referring to the thermal units, or do you have overall costs that you can give some idea of?
If they were referring to the PLCs that Pierre introduced at the front end, the ones that include the SQL are in that kind of $3,000 range. Talking in Canadian dollars for, I guess, anyone thinking US dollars, you'd multiply that by 0.7. If we're talking about the power supplies, they range anywhere from about 400 to 600, depending on the size. For the condition monitoring devices around the motors, you'd be, for the sensor themselves, depending on which sensor it is, there's kind of a range between, I think, about $500 to $1,000, and then the control module itself is about another $1,500. And then you've got the cameras. So the camera system, you have a controller and then a separate camera. The controller is around, I believe, $1,300, and the camera is around $1,100, and you can tie up to, I think, 31 cameras into a single controller. Yeah.
That was really, really impressive. And what is like the resolution of those cameras?
That really depends on the distance from target. So the closer you are, the better resolution you have. The closer you bring the camera, basically the pixel representation per block is higher. Mm-hmm. So it really depends on how close you are with the camera.
Sure. And
like the actual resolution is...
Sorry, Pierre?
I was about to say, remember on the application they showed you, there's 16 zones, and each zone is 8 by 8 pixels.
Got it.
So that's the resolution. So if your zone or if your field of view is 8 inches, then you got 1/8 of an inch per cell.
Very good.
It's pretty small.
Yeah, it's quite small. And the actual thermal resolution, what would that be?
You mean the ability to monitor change in temperature?
Yeah, exactly. So is it like 0.1 of a degree, or is it 1 degree, or is it 0.01? Yes. You know, type thing.
0.1 of a degree.
It is 0.1. That's a good guess.
0.1 of a degree C. Yeah. Okay,
very good. And going back to the K6CM, isn't it? That's your motor monitor as well. So you had the insulation resistance testing as well. What kind of voltages does it test at?
Right now, the current clamps, they're rated at 480 volts. We are releasing this summer a 600 volt clamps. So right now we're limited to 480 because, as you know, in Canada, we're probably the only place in the world with 575 volts motors and power and distribution. Right. So everywhere in the world, Japan and Europe, there are 40 volts, and even in the States. So for us in Canada, we're kind of limited for the current clamps, but we're working on a 600 volt one to be able to mount on those wires. Otherwise, sure. It's not legal to mount something that's not rated.
Yeah, but that's on the CT clamps you're talking about. Yeah. But in relation to the insulation resistance tests, was I right in seeing that it also does carry out a Megger test, an insulation resistance?
No, it's not. No, it's like your current your bathroom plugs where they do have the current leaking to ground.
I got it. Okay.
So it does the same thing. It measures the three phases, and if there's an imbalance of the three phase, then it detects that there's a leakage to ground.
I got it.
Compared to the ground.
Okay. I got that. Perfect. Very good. And in terms of like, does Omron provide its it was known as an analysis service for the motor monitor as well, to be able to analyze if it's maybe a cavitation issue or checked valves and in lift stations, that flows going backwards, and some sees anomalies or whatever. I mean,
they're really devices that would be comparable to like a check engine light in a car. So the idea is to flag an anomaly, flag a change in the status, but it does not dive into the root cause analysis. That data, I'm assuming we probably will be gathering over time and maybe building some databases to support some of that. But currently, it's kind of just an anomaly detection.
Very good, very good. Something just came in. It was more a comment. It was to do with kind of, I guess, Pierre. You were kind of mentioning about, with was it the NJ-102, I think, that from that cybersecurity point of view, just someone had mentioned that it basically can help secure essentially weaker protocols. So like some Modbus, by being a data aggregator, and if it's then facing the rest, externally, that it can become kind of its own almost like a DMZ. It can
yeah, like that's certainly the primary point of taking a computer out of the installation and replacing it with a PLC. That unit itself is locked out, can't really be accessed from outside sources. So definitely an upgrade from a cybersecurity standpoint.
Absolutely. No, very, very good. That's all the questions that actually came in. So if anyone has any additional ones that you'd like to add, we just have a couple more minutes really. So that's my mugshot, unfortunately. And so you should be able to see that Q&A button if you haven't already clicked and you've got a question for Shane or Pierre. Now's your time to do so, or else forever remain silent. So yeah, it just comes in very interesting stuff like that. So yeah, I found that fascinating, and actually even going back to the thermal condition monitoring, I'd never seen something used as a kind of an online type resource. That's phenomenal. I mean, very typical, someone having to open a panel door and looking with a thermal imaging camera, sure. But to see something that is
in real life,
yeah, an online sensor, that's incredible. And 31 cameras is again quite phenomenal. So
well, depends on your real estate. If you have a single door, multiple door control panel, then you need to, because the field of view or the angle of view is 90 degrees, but still, if your door or your control panel is not necessarily very deep, so you have to be very close by. So you need a wide field of view, but then you still can cover so much. So if you need more, you can plaster your control panel door with multiple cameras, wire them up to the sensor, and then you can have all those views directly.
Yeah. Phenomenal. Absolutely. So I guess, guys, that's all we have. Thank you so much again for joining us. And
welcome.
What I was just wondering, like in relation to finding out more, where's the best place to go and find it?
Well, you find our data on our website. We have a very exhaustive website where you can see and download a lot of documentation. You can also send emails to Shane and myself, and we also have local distributors in the Maritimes or throughout Canada and the States.
Fantastic. Great.
Well, there's also quite a bit of new content on our YouTube presence. So yeah, there's lots of stuff there.
That's wonderful. Well, we hope you'll come back and join us again for another Automation Village event. We'd definitely love to have you back again.
Excellent.
It was great having you as well last week, Shane, as well. So thank you. And now you as well, Pierre. Really well presented, very well demoed. That was great. So you made my job easy, too easy. So you kind of caught me at the end of the. So it's a great job. And yeah,
well, that's the material.
All right.
40 minutes. Though.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, thank you so much. Appreciate
All right.
that so much. And
thank
you. And to our attendees as well, if you've any questions, as Pierre or Shane said, you can ask them as well. Send an email to them, or if you're struggling to get in touch or whatever, you can always field them through us at Trihedral as well. So you have links to different aspects as well there. And likewise, if you want to take a break yourselves, you actually get an extra 3 minutes, so you can almost put a boiled egg on. How about that? Boiled egg. You have 3 minutes, 2 minutes. So we'll be back at the top of the hour. If you need to change stream as well, feel free to do so as well. So there's a few different ones. It's it's utilities, water and wastewater. It's more than that actually, and we also have reporting and analytics, which are in currently. And we also have cybersecurity and general automation as well. So next up, we'll actually have Tim Kruse, who's the VP from eRIS or Eramosa. Some of you might know as well. So enjoy your few minutes break, and we'll see you back here shortly. Thank you. Thanks again, Shane. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Welcome back, everybody, after the break. So hope you're enjoying our event. We've had Omron on already, as some of you may know as well. So I'm really happy to welcome our next guest as well. So our guest presenter is Tim Kruse. Tim is the Vice President at Eramosa. So Eramosa and eRIS are kind of synonymous, I guess, really, Tim. So maybe, well, it's kind of like the trihedral and VT SCADA side of it.
Exactly, Peter. Yeah,
So,
company name, product name.
so really good. No, so eRIS, many of you on this call will have heard of eRIS as well. And Tim, so you're the vice president at Eramosa, and you've been a consultant apparently for, is it 20 years in the water industry alone?
Exactly. Yeah, I've worked in a lot of different capacities, mostly on the business side, not necessarily on the process control side, but mostly in business applications. So I've worked with organizations throughout North America, from, I say, Boston to Honolulu, from Halifax to Vancouver, both in the US and Canada, but done lots of things like laboratory systems and AMR, AMI systems, and just regular business intelligence systems, and all kinds of different stuff, including data management platforms like eRIS.
Very good. So I mean, that obviously stands to you on the basis of, I mean, you know, with eRIS, in terms of being that middleware, you know, like in terms of being able to, well, you were kind of describing that it helps normalize kind of enterprise data, like SCADA, CMMS, and laboratory and different kinds of data sets as well. So I mean, that kind of plays out. So your background, you know, helps all of that, obviously.
Exactly. It's been a long time. I mean, you know, lots of people have always struggled with the silos of data, and I was complicit in helping people build more silos. And now it's really nice to be able to offer a product that helps connect the data that is in those silos and give people tools to be able to manage and analyze and visualize that information. So that's what we're hopefully going to talk about today, is the how we can make data smarter.
Absolutely. Well, so as we're going along as usual, if anyone has any questions, please click on the Q&A button. Please don't type into the chat unless it's something different, and because I may not spot that one actually. But if you type into the Q&A at any point during Tim's presentation, and we'll ask those questions then at the end of the 40-minute presentation piece that Tim will do, and we'll have around about 10 minutes or thereabouts for those questions, and then you'll have another 10-minute break that you should be able to take as well and get up and stretch your legs, get that coffee. So great. So Tim, I'm going to stop sharing, and if you want to share your screen, you should have you should be able to do that now.
Great.
Excellent. Yep.
And I just want to confirm you can see, hopefully.
Perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, wonderful. Well, as Peter mentioned, my name is Tim Kruse, and I'm really excited to be here today as part of the Automation Village, and was available last week for a quick 10-minute conversation, but it's really nice to be able to talk a little bit more in depth about eRIS and our product. You know, eRIS is an interesting application, and the idea behind it is it gives us tools to manage all of your data with a single solution. So since some people may not be familiar with eRIS, the best place to start is, what is it? So what is eRIS? The name really doesn't say what it does. So this is the definition that I like to mention, the elevator pitch, if you might say, but it is simply a data hub and application. So it's two things in one, but it gives tools to our customers to manage, analyze, and visualize enterprise data. So it is designed to be a connection or a hub of data. And as Peter mentioned, it can be used in a lot of ways, including as kind of a middleware layer between all of your different systems. One of the interesting things that makes us different than a lot of other systems, though, especially business intelligence systems or data warehouse systems, is we do not copy data. We don't permanently make a copy of your data and put it into another data warehouse or another database. We simply connect to where your data lives, and we give our customers access to that information. And when we're talking about information, this is in a typical water or wastewater utility, or this could be any type of business, but we do a lot of business in water, wastewater. These are types of the systems that we can connect to. So those are things like SCADA, process control, and we have connections to VT SCADA. But we also have connections to lots of other products, maintenance management systems. We connect to billing systems and GIS systems, and even give tools to push data into other databases through a manual data entry process. And we connect to data outside your organization as well through third-party data providers. So when we're talking about information and connecting your information, it's the enterprise that we're talking about. Now, you don't have to start with the enterprise. You can start with one or two connections, but we're fully capable of expanding above and beyond what we start out with. So I always like to start with, kind of a typical, how do we get eRIS connected? And this is what makes us special. We simply start with some of those data sources. In this case, I've selected kind of 4 of those different data sources. And the way in which eRIS is deployed is through what we call a virtual appliance. That's just a simple server. There's no software to deploy. It's simply a deployment of a server in your virtual environment, or it can be in the cloud. And then we configure eRIS to connect to those different data sources. Those connectors, in many cases, are simply read-only. So to many commercial off-the-shelf applications, they're just read-only connections. But in the case of maybe manual data entry, it has to be bidirectional. We have to be able to push data into that database as well as retrieve data out of it. What's exciting about eRIS is it can be deployed in less than a day. We can install eRIS and have it up and running and have it connected to data sources and having it visualize and analyze and manage data in a day. It doesn't take weeks and weeks or even months and months to deploy. And once it's installed, we can even extend it outside of your environment. So that gray line, that vertical line, that is a representation of your network boundary or a firewall outside to the internet. Using a product that we also sell called eRIS Web Data, which is a subscription product, we can give our customers access to data that's available outside of their organization, maybe weather data or data that's being collected by a third party through some type of IoT application. And I'll be talking about, we offer a similar solution through a product called Digital Water Solutions, where we do online monitoring of water distribution systems with instrumentation that's in fire hydrants. There'll be a little bit of a demonstration of that in a few minutes. We also have a mobile tool that extends eRIS outside of your outside the organization or wherever you may be. And then we also can use the data that exists in those source systems and deliver it to other applications like maps or maintenance tools, taking runtime hours out of SCADA and pushing it into a maintenance system, or even taking process information and laboratory information and sharing it with maybe an AI vendor and do some even more powerful analytics and real-time machine learning and doing operational insight and recommendations. So there's lots of ways to use eRIS. It's simply not just a reporting solution, but it can do a lot more. So how do we compare to different tools within the marketplace? Well, we have this little radar chart that kind of helps describe, based on the different components or the different things that different applications do, are listed around the outside of the circle. And when we compare ourselves to a typical reporting solution, there's lots of reporting solutions out there that you can build lots of reports, and they allow you to create your own reports, and they connect to data sources. but they don't do some of the other things that eRIS does, like data normalization or time zone management, of managing data that is in multiple time zones, or can be deployed both on the cloud or on premise, or do other things like major algorithms. We can also compare, we have a product called an electronic logbook that I'm going to show you today. You know, the logbook, there are other tools out there that do logbook, but they don't necessarily do reporting or any analytics. And we also have business intelligence capabilities like algorithms, and we can compare to other software like Microsoft BI or Tableau, but they don't really have the kind of reporting, or they don't have an electronic logbook, or they don't do some of the data normalization that eRIS does as well. And then you finally get to the product eRIS, where, you know, we do a lot of things very well. So it is a different type of product. It plays in a lot of different spaces within the market. And so that really kind of makes us unique for what we can do. So it's a big product, but it can also be tailored to meet your specific needs. So where I'd like to go next is to discuss some actual business use cases. So we're going to start with a use case or a success story with a customer in our data analytics side of the product. So these are just some of the analytics tools that are built into eRIS. We have a calculation engine and we do data validation, but we're going to talk about a tool within eRIS called monitoring of tags, or monitored tags. So our monitoring process is really a 4-step process. It starts out with monitoring of data, and then it moves into a notification phase. So we can notify individuals or groups and generate reports and those kinds of things. But we also have a built-in workflow engine that allows not only notifications, but people to be assigned work and then have some feedback to what was done with that work. Now that workflow is optional, doesn't have to be included in the monitoring process, but it is a very nice feature and people use it quite frequently. And then the 4th step of the process is a feedback loop or a completion loop. So when people do the tasks that are assigned to them, they can feedback that information and then put that information and gets completed within the eRIS tool set, and then gets stored in an easy to use PDF document that records the whole event as an event and keeps it stored. So that's how the process works, a 4-step process. And the things that we can monitor on are from the simple to the extremely complex. So things like simple exceedances, things that are out of range, either up or down. But we can also do really complex algorithms, taking data from multiple data sources, from different data sets, not just SCADA, but SCADA and laboratory and maybe even a maintenance situation, and combine that data into an algorithm and then trigger an event. So that's what our monitoring of tags does. Let's talk specifically about one of our customers. It is it's a wastewater treatment plant in the region of Durham, which is just outside of Toronto. It's the Duffin Creek incineration operations. They're incinerating wastewater sludge. And their challenge is that a large portion of their operating budget is spent specifically on energy or fuel that is used in the sludge incineration process. You can see it's almost 20% or more than 20% of their operating budget. And there's lots of financial pressures to be able to keep and reduce that cost sector. So where they started with is using some visualization tools within eRIS, and they recognized really quickly that there was an association between the autogenous burn rate, which means when the fire in the incinerator is burning on its own, which is in a very good fuel saving mode, when it drops below a certain percentage, it then requires more fuel, and that situation directly aligned with times where the cake, the material that's being burned, was highly or more saturated with water. So there was this direct relationship with the wetter the material, the higher cost to produce the incinerate, or to produce or to consume that material. And so that seems like really a easy thing to come up with. The problem is that the incineration process is handled by one group within the plant. The cake sludge dewatering is in another plant. Don't really talk to each other. There's not really a consolidated control system where you can see what's going on in both situations. And so they needed some way to be able to look at both processes and keep people up to date with what was going on. And so what they did is, using some tools within eRIS, they built a calculation and an algorithm, and they then ended up creating a monitored tag, which includes a workflow. It's a series of monitored tags that looks for the conditions that triggered large consumption of fuel. And then based on that trigger, they notify people with a troubleshooting workflow that says, hey, people, this is what you can do to fix the problem, or at least what you should be looking for in order to fix the problem. So instead of somebody manually looking at all the data and trying to monitor the process, they are using eRIS to monitor the process and then simply using it to notify people with troubleshooting tips on where to go from there. So this is an example of the notification email. This is the tool within eRIS where they can see every outstanding task that needs to be done. There's a complete feedback loop. In addition, that troubleshooting workflow is also available there. And at the end of the day, what are they actually saving? Well, they anticipate that by combining and using monitored tags, they're looking to save nearly almost over $100,000 a year by reducing the amount of energy in their incineration process, just by keeping people aware of this relationship automatically using eRIS. And that cost savings directly relates to a greenhouse gas emission savings of almost 10%. So not only is this an environmentally good impact, it's also an economically good impact for them. Long discussion, apologize for that, but it's just one way that people are using eRIS to do more than just reporting. From a visualization standpoint, I mentioned earlier in my presentation that there was, we're going to talk a little bit about our leak detection and data visualization tools. Using the product that I'm going to show you uses a lot of dashboards, and so it makes a good example of one of the ways that eRIS uses to visualize information. We do a lot of things besides dashboards, talked about reports, and we can do asset management reporting and ad hoc trends and queries and things like that. But dashboard is what I wanted to talk to you about next. So the product that we were talking about is called Digital Water Solutions, and it includes instrumentation into a dry barrel fire hydrant to measure pressure, including a transient event, which is a pressure spike, water temperature, battery level, and also it listens using acoustic sampling. So it is listening for the sound waves that are in the water. So it does that type of analysis, instrumentation built into the water column at the base of a fire hydrant. So this is an example of an eRIS dashboard, which is capturing that transient event, which is a spike, a real rapid spike, collected at over 100 samples per second. So the resolution that you can get using eRIS is down into the hertz. So even thousands, even the megahertz level, thousands of samples per second can be displayed and analyzed with eRIS. So this is just an example of one of the pressure events. It's called a transient event. But we also have a map view. And this map view looks at the same type of information. In this case, though, it's looking at sound and listening for the sound data. And so as the sound data comes on the screen, there's not really much happening. This happened last year. But as you see, previous to a leak, not much happened on the screen. But then when a leak happens, when there's a large sound event, the whole screen lights up. So there's a visual cue of what is happening. And that noise event was easily captured within eRIS for a large water main break. The map is only one way that we view the information. Another way is using a scatter plot. This is another visualization tool built into eRIS. This is showing the noise level over time. So the dots at the higher end of the scale are louder noises. The ones that are at the bottom of the scale are quieter noise. And so you can see that there's more loudness or more sound from the hydrants collected at the top of the screen than at the bottom, because more of the dots are at the top than at the bottom. So just a quick visualization, we can look at it and say, well, where are the noisier hydrants? They're at the top. And that helps us figure out where that leak may be. But major leaks aren't the only thing that we can connect to and understand. The visualization tools also help us understand even a smaller leak. In this case, it was catching a person who was filling their swimming pool with a garden hose. So this happened to be done overnight. Found out that that person was filling that swimming pool, and using just that small differential in the sound waves, we were able to triangulate and locate which house it was and contact the owner and ask them what they were doing, because it seemed like there was quite a bit of noise and a potential leak within their area. Found out that they were filling their swimming pool. So interesting use of the technology, but once again, it's using data visualization tools with data that's being connected to using eRIS. The last place that I wanted to stop is kind of a place where we talk about data management. So we've been talking about analytics and visualizations. Well, the last thing that eRIS does really well is managing of data. And in this use case, I want to actually show you an electronic logbook. And I'm going to break out of the PowerPoint presentation and actually show you a live demo. I hope my boss is watching, because he always gets nervous when I do live demos, but I'm actually going to show you a real live demo here. So I'm going to just exit out of my presentation and bring up my logbook screen. So this is a view of eRIS. This is our electronic logbook page. This is within a browser, so this is browser-based. This logbook is actually being stored and managed in the cloud. So this is a hosted eRIS log application. This is demo data. It looks kind of real, but it's really a demo system. Lakeshore Water Plant is the name that we've given to that. And to make a new log entry, it's a real simple process. The green bar kind of highlights what I'm supposed to do here. We have this labeling mechanism. You can think of that as similar to adding hashtags or adding organizational labels onto any data entry. In this case, maybe I'm going to do a compliance entry, and this is an example of a compliance entry. So I add whatever entry that I want there, and I simply hit save, and it just adds it to the top of the logbook. Real simple, easy to use application, doesn't take a lot of training, but there's tons and tons of power in behind here. The first thing is every single one of these labels is clickable, which allows me to simply filter down the logbook to just the entries that are associated with that particular label. So easy way to find information. Also, the text is searchable. So if I want to look for anything that has an SOP in the label or in the entry, once again, it's a simple filter. there's also information behind here. So this one has an attachment. I can tell by this little arrow. And this attachment is a Word document, or in this case, it's a PDF document of an SOP associated with this particular plant. And we can also, there are also other types of attachments as well. This one down here, I believe, has an image. So if I click on the image, this will pop up an image. It's a pretty large picture, so it takes a couple of seconds to load. So easy, real simple use of the tool. All kinds of other controls. I can adjust what date range that I want to look at. I can easily see which operator made the entries. I can see when it happened. And if I have a really important entry, I can even pin it to the top of the log. Just simply by pinning this entry, I can give it a color. Let's make it yellow. And I can simply put it at the top of the log. And it'll then stay there, highlighted in front of our operator's world so that they can see what's going on. So nice little easy to use tool. And it's available right now. Let me also show you, I'm gonna do another screen share. This time I'm gonna show you my mobile device. So this is the mobile view screen sharing. So this is my mobile app. Let me just get rid of all the rest of this stuff here so you can see it. So this is what our mobile application for the logbooks look like. We even have a quick QR reader. So when I'm here, I can click on the QR code reader. I click on a QR code and it quickly takes me directly to that logbook. This happens to be the Lakeshore logbook. So I can put that QR code up in the plant where I want to make sure that people are doing entries for, and they can just scan their phone right there. To add a new entry, same way. I grab a label. Maybe I'm doing something with the low lift. I confirm the label. I simply put in an entry. What's nice is I can use voice to text on my phone, so I don't even have to type, period. I can also add an attachment, take a photo, and I save that entry, and now it saves that into the log and back up on top. So ultimately, I've got my phone here. Let me stop canceling that. Get rid of that. And if I refresh my logbook, that entry that I made online now is available right here online. So there is the picture that I took. So kind of a cool application built into eRIS, makes for a really nice use of our technology, and it's something that makes eRIS different. A little bit bigger picture than I thought. Let me jump back to my presentation. I've got a couple more slides, and then we can start talking a little bit about answering questions. So let me get back to my slide deck here. One of the use cases that we have from our customers, this is a real live customer. This customer went out with the mobile application, took a mobile entry. They happened to be about 20 minutes away from the facility. And by the time she got back to the plant, after taking a picture of this algae bloom, her team was already working on a solution to that problem. They even use their mobile app and their eRIS logbook to help them keep track of hard to find curb stops or information out in the field that's hard to find. They can take a picture, put an address into their logbook, and then simply search the logbook to be able to find that picture. So who uses eRIS and why do people use eRIS? Well, first of all, let's answer the question why. Well, there's a lot of reasons why people use eRIS, but it's specifically designed for control systems, for water and wastewater systems, but it's really designed for people who need access to data from lots of different systems. And eRIS is continually being updated and enhanced. So we are constantly talking to our customers. We're constantly improving the product. And that's why we even have a logbook tool to begin with. Most people don't have logbook tools in a reporting or a data management solution, but we listened to our customers who had a really strong need for that tool. So we built it into our product and gave them those tools that they needed. And we're not just for one small part of your organization, but our tools can be used by operations staff, they can be used by engineering, by planning, they can be used by executives. Lots of different people within your organization can find it benefiting and use for eRIS as well. So what are some of our other tools? Well, I've been showing you eRIS and I showed you a demo of the logbook, but we have different products. We have 4 different products in addition to eRIS log with varying different functionality as well as their different price points. So our eRIS Hub is really just our middleware tool in people who need to just connect data together and pull that data and push that data between applications can get eRIS Hub for a very economical cost. eRIS Core is what most of our customers use. It's our typical functionality. Everything that I showed you today, including logbook and including data queries and monitor tags, is included in our core product. But there's some additional tools that are offered in eRIS Max. So that eRIS Max is our tool that's designed for those organizations who want everything, who need everything, who want to have the entire product. And then we even have a larger tool set called eRIS Nova, which just supports multiple servers, multi-hosting, and it can be deployed either again on-premise or in the cloud, but supports thousands and thousands of users. So it's really designed for organizations who really need to leverage the power of eRIS to its max. Just some of a representation of our customers. So, we've got some large organizations in the US and in Canada as well that are using eRIS and helping to make our product better and improving it every single day. I showed you the demonstration of the eRIS log because that is what we're running a special on right now. You can get into eRIS logbook in a hosted environment, everything in starting at under $300 a month. So that would be a subscription model, and we're even giving you the first month, the first 30 days free. So you can try eRIS logbook for the first month, no risk, no payment down, get you up and running in a day, and get you an eRIS logbook to play with. So if you're interested in that, send me your email and be glad to get you set up on that in this week. Can't really say anything more than what our customers say about eRIS. So this came from one of our customers, and it really says a lot about how they value eRIS and especially the logbook tool. In these really unique times where people are asked to work together without being together, eRIS gives you the tools, the information, the data from everywhere within your organization, wherever you need it. Whether you're working from home or whether you're out in the field with our mobile app, you can see and get access to information wherever you need it, and be safe without having to get too close to people when you need to stay apart. So, Peter, I may be a little short because I know you gave me 40 minutes, and I think it's only about 35, but I'd rather give people a longer break or give them more time to ask questions.
Tim, that was excellent. Superb. So look, I think I I'm just going to remind people of how to ask more questions as well, because sometimes people wait till the last second and they start typing frantically. So, so if you can make sure that you type into the Q&A button, you'll see it at the bottom of your screen when you move your cursor down, and please ask questions there. So basically, Tim, I've seen a lot of packages along the way that have been, I guess, you know, they're individual. It's an asset management tool. It's an AI tool. It's some kind of data analytics tool that does something else, or electronic logbooks. And I mean, how long did it even take to develop this as a package that seems to do everything?
So we've been working on this since 2010, basically. So it's been almost a decade. Really have only commercialized the product since 2013. So it really started out as an internal tool. So Eramosa is a big company. We have over 100 employees, and we know VT SCADA very well because we do systems integration work for customers throughout most of Canada, from east to west, and have lots of large customers where we help put in SCADA packages and configure SCADA systems and control systems. So it started out as an internal tool of, hey, we put in SCADA systems, but people struggle to get data out of SCADA. And so that's where eRIS started. It started as a product we named actually eSCADA-R for a SCADA reporting tool. But we quickly had customers morph us into, well, if we can connect to SCADA, we can connect to lots of other things. And so this is really a perfect example of an organically grown product that started out with one idea: how to better report out of SCADA. And it morphed into, well, if you can connect to SCADA, let's connect it to lab. If you can connect to lab, let's connect it to asset systems. Let's get it to the billing data. Now let's get it to the meter data. Okay, now let's get it to all this data that we're putting into the Excel spreadsheets. So as we've morphed, as we've grown, as we've tried to expand to more and more data sets, we've then built the tools that we needed to do that. So once we connected everything, then people started to say, well, how do we better analyze this information? So we built this whole analytics engine. And then people said, well, you know, we've got all of this great controls information, but you know, we have to create this log every day, and it's a regulatory requirement. Can you help us manage this logbook, because we're writing this down on pieces of paper? And we said, sure, let's build that too. And we have a really modular foundation. So eRIS is built in a really modular way. We don't price it that way. We don't make people pay for modules, but we modularize the product so it's really easy to deploy. You can build your own eRIS screens to have whatever you want on it. And if you're not using parts of eRIS that you don't need, you don't put them on the screen. So it's a really cool tool, but the short answer to the question is it morphed out of needs from real people. It wasn't something we came up with. Our customers came to us and said, hey, can you build this for us? And that's how it grew.
Very good. And is it cloud-based only, or is it locally deployed also?
It's both. So we have some customers who, and a lot of our customers deploy it in their own environment, or on-premise, we call it. But it can be just as easily deployed in the cloud. We have several customers who have it in the cloud. It really depends on their own network architecture. It really depends on their own data sources. More and more people are moving more and more of their data to the cloud. And so many people are asking us to be cloud hosted, sometimes within their cloud infrastructure. So we're really flexible. Since we deploy in a virtual appliance, we can be deployed in numerous places within the organization. Our simple ask is we just need to be able to connect the data sources. So if you can see the data source, eRIS can use the data source.
Super. Right. So the questions have been pouring in here. So one of the questions that came in is, can your mobile application handle manual data entry from operator rounds?
It can, yes, it can. I didn't show that, but yes, it does. So the same tools that we have to put data into a web interface, we can also do that in our mobile app. The advantage of our mobile app over our web app is that we actually store the data in the mobile app. So in case you're doing a data entry in some place where you either don't have a cell coverage or you don't have Wi-Fi coverage, you can still do the data entry into the phone itself. It's stored on the phone, and then it'll synchronize whenever it reconnects to the eRIS server. So you don't lose any information. And even if that happens midstream, it doesn't matter. So
that's great.
No, our mobile app handles that.
So if someone wants to take a photograph of a situation at I don't know, maybe a partially underground station or whatever, you can take that photograph and then they'll synchronize after the fact.
Absolutely. Yep. I can do everything that I can do on the mobile app, I can do offline or online, either case.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So another question came through. What compliance-related reports are utilities using eRIS for in the United States?
So we have lots of customers who are using it for their discharge monitoring reports, their DMR reports. We have water facilities that are using it for their MORs. We have people who use it for their annual compliance reports. So you name the compliance report, we have people who are using eRIS for it.
Fantastic, really good. So a question came in. It seems like we could use this for reviewing pump data and flow from SCADA with water meter data to start to doing water loss calculations. Do you have an example of doing this?
I was in a meeting yesterday. We have clients who are doing that. Yeah, I've got a customer that you can talk to. It's in the infancy of the project. I hate to tell you, we're having a little trouble with the meter data provider. Their application API has a little bit of challenges, let's put it that way. So the meter information that we're getting back from the meter vendor through their cloud hosted solution isn't the same as what you see on the screen, which is a problem. But yes, we have customers who are doing that. And if you send me your contact information, I'd be glad to get you in contact with our partner who's doing that.
Fantastic, thank you. So actually, I had a couple and as well that I wrote down as well. Just in relation to when you mentioned about the fire hydrant application, and you said it covered pressure, transient events. You put down water temperature as well and battery levels. So have you been using that for like Legionella? Basically purging dead legs and lines. Is that something that you've looked at monitoring from other aspects, which could be, chlorine degradation just based on time and stuff like that?
We've had customers use it in different ways. One of the interesting things about our technology is that we provide the tools for our customers and then they use it. So they don't always tell us what they're using it for. So we like to get information back from our customers, but most of the people that are using our hydrant technology, that instrumentation in the hydrants, mostly right now, their biggest challenges are either pressure problems, so they're having either high or low pressure, and or they're having a lot of problems with leaks. And so that's why we have both the pressure and the acoustic data. What we have found, though, the reason why we have the water temperature there, though, is especially since we have a lot of northern, so we're a Canadian-based company, we have a lot of northern customers, that it also helps protect against water main freezes. So they can look at water temperature, and in some areas they actually will then notify residents to make sure that they keep a tap on so that there's flow in the system so that their mains don't freeze, because if a main freezes, it's a really difficult problem to fix a lot of times.
Absolutely.
It takes a lot of heat to unfreeze a water main.
Absolutely. So a few more questions. So you mentioned asset management tools. Can you give an example of how you use that data together with SCADA data?
Sure. I've got lots of customers who are doing that. So there is an asset management tool that allows customers to connect to asset systems The nice thing about eRIS is it can connect to multiple asset systems within your organization and give you a single view of your assets, even without having to go to system to system to system. So I've got one customer who has got assets in an Infor EAM system, but then they have their vehicles in a vehicle maintenance system, but then all of their pipe assets are in a GIS system. And so we've given them one single view of all of their assets, and they can then look at their assets within the eRIS tool because it's connected to all of those systems, and they can do overall management of assets by looking at similar columns like replacement costs and condition assessment for all assets at once instead of just by silos. Second of all, we have lots of customers who just struggle with asset management system reporting engines that are built onto those. So a lot of them, they either don't have the right skill set or the pre-canned programs. Reports are really difficult for them to handle. And since eRIS can connect to that same data, and we have a lot better reporting tools because we're a reporting solution, we can help them build reports that they struggle with within their own asset systems. So we have lots of customers who use it just to be able to view better reports. In addition, we can take data from asset systems and compare it to SCADA systems. So we have people who are using it where on one half of the screen is a SCADA screen or a SCADA data that shows them pump performance, for example, looking at maybe output of flow versus amperage. So it's pulling data directly out of their SCADA system. And then right next to it is a chart with all of the work orders for that particular pump out of the maintenance system. So they can look at very simply, hey, how is my pump performing, either currently over time, and then how much maintenance and what's the cost of that pump that I can see all on one screen.
Very good, really good. So another question came in, and it's how do you handle different types, data types such as SCADA and CMMS data together, given one is time series and one is a relational data type?
So that's a great question. In eRIS, we handle both. We give you lots of tools to use both types of data. So we can take time series data and display it as a table. We can take some table data and display it as time series just by taking the time series components out of a relational database. So think of like assets. Well, assets is a list. But I can also take work orders, which has a time component when the work order was maybe either completed, that has a time component. So I can either look at the list of assets or the list of work orders, but I can also put the time of the work orders and group them by time or group them by work type or group them by all kinds of different things. I'm trying to think of a better example than that, but lots of different ways. So we have lots of tools, including building reports and dashboard tools, so we can build charts and bar charts and graphs and pie charts and Pareto charts and all kinds of stuff to look at data in lots of different systems. But yeah, that is a challenge, but we have really easy to use tools.
Very good. And just another one came through. It appears that you could bring weather data in and start doing predictive flow analysis to a wastewater plant. Have you done any predictive analytics with eRIS?
We have. As a matter of fact, I have one customer who is using it. It's a pretty simple calculation. Their influent flow, it's a wastewater treatment plant, is very much directed on the amount of rainfall they get. And so we have simply done a calculation that looks at the projections for upcoming rain events and compares it to their existing plant flow, and then builds a projected line into the future, looking at that comparison of how much rain is going to come in the next couple of days compared to what's already the plant is handling. So yeah, we've done that.
Super. And actually, even with that, like, is it one directional, kind of unidirectional, or is it bidirectional in terms of that if you do something on the data analytics front, like weather data, and you've predicted that you need to put maybe pump stations into a certain mode, shall we say, is it possible to actually feed it in reverse back to the SCADA system?
Well, now we're getting into that magic grail. So we have proven that technology. Yes, we've done it. Most of our customers say, no, I don't want you to do that. But we definitely have done that. That's one of the advantages of Eramosa as being a controls expert company as well. So yes, we actually have done that. We've worked at creating what we would call recommended set points. And in a laboratory, not in a live control system, but in a lab, we have actually physically changed the set points in a control systems using the analytics engine built into eRIS.
Very good. That's superb.
Yeah.
Well, Tim, we've just come to the end of this particular presentation. This was really, really good. Where can people find out more?
They can go to our website. It's a mouthful, but if you can remember that eRIS makes your information smarter, that's the web address, yourinformationsmarter.com. So it's all one word, yourinformationsmarter.com. That'll get you directly all the information you need about eRIS. Otherwise, they can email me directly. I'm on LinkedIn. If you just Google Tim Kruse at Eramosa, you'll get me as well. Fantastic.
No, it's been wonderful, Tim. Great having you last week as well. So we'd love to have you at another event in the future with the Automation Village.
Hey, thanks very much, and thanks to VT SCADA for having me.
That's great, Tim. Thank you so much. And a question came in as well, as someone was just wondering if you can access this webinar later through a link. The answer is yes. It won't be today, but over the next week or so, these will actually be put up on YouTube as well, obviously with our presenters' permission. And you'll be able to find that on the VT SCADA channel. So make sure you subscribe, because that's where you'll find a lot of this information as well. And if you're struggling to find links or whatever, again, if you want to go to our website, you'll actually find the links to all of these for all the presenters, and you'll have links back to their own websites and email addresses, etc. You'll be able to access via that if you're struggling to remember where to go. So Tim, once again, thank you so much for for coming on. We've loved having you. And to our attendees, I just want to say that we have another 8-minute break in this case, and we'll be back as I said, in about 8 minutes with our next presenter. And welcome back to our next session, and it's going to be with Peter Kaprielian, who's he's the founder and chief technical officer with SyTech. So Peter, I'm not sure if you can hear me. Can you just unmute your mic, please? There we go. It should be on now.
Can you hear me, Peter?
Yeah, I can indeed.
Good afternoon.
And good afternoon to you as well. Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. Really good to have you as well. You did a great presentation as well last week during our Automation Village virtual trade show. So you gave a bit of a taster on XLReporter and aspects to what you guys do with SyTech. So so Peter, you're well, I should say you're the one of the founders of SyTech as well, and so you're in a CTO position right now. But your automation career goes right back to 1980, I think it is it?
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while.
In those days, we were multitasking DOS to try and make it work in an industrial environment. And then Windows arrived, and we thought it had come from outer space.
I know.
So here we are, and you're quite right. I've been around for a while. I've been a project manager. I've been an engineer. I've crawled under conveyor belts. I got covered in oil. I think I've done it all. And my training is I got a PhD in mathematics.
Oh wow! Yeah.
And computer science. And so I decided that getting covered in oil was enough for one day, and that I should go and apply my skills to better things.
Oh, very good. And I was going to say, a bit like myself, your accent, you know, well, I'm not from these parts. I'm based in Charlotte, in North Carolina. But where are you from yourself originally?
I'm from Manchester, United Kingdom.
Oh, very good.
I don't know if you, and you sound like you're from Ireland.
I'm from Ireland, exactly.
Yeah.
So next door.
Belfast, well, Belfast possibly.
I'm more down in the southwest. So County Limerick was actually where I was last based. Yeah. So it's a small world. That's the one thing that I guess you start realizing over time. And well, it's wonderful having you here as well. So I'm going to hand over control for your presentation as well, if that's okay with you.
Yes.
And did you want me to cover some of those videos or anything? Just if you just shout, there's no problem.
Okay. At this point, the only concern I have is, are you seeing my desktop?
Well, right this second, no, until I give you control. But let me do that. And let me also say as well that that if you have any questions for Peter as we go along, make sure you click on that Q&A box button down in the bottom of the screen, and you can just type in anything. And the presentation will be about 40 minutes or thereabouts, and be about 10 minutes then for Q&A. In fact, this session, because it's the last one, always has more time. so we can actually run longer on this one as well, I should say, to Peter. So right now, if you want to click on share your screen as well, I can't see anything yet, but if you just click on it.
It's surprising if you minimize the window, everything shuts down.
It's an interesting system, isn't it? Yeah. So we've had to develop new skill sets, I think, using this particular tool, and it's it's like, where is it gone? So so hopefully it should be down at the bottom. If you just clicking at the green button, should be screen share. Share screen.
Yeah, you should be seeing it now. Correct?
Not yet.
How about now?
Yep, here we go. Now, there we go. Cool. Yeah, we got you now. So yeah. And like I said, if there's anything you want me to you know, play back or whatever, just shout. There's no problem at all. I have those queued up. And yeah, so over to you. And we're looking forward to hearing about your presentation as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Peter, and thank you for the attendees for doing the stretch and being here for the last session. As Peter said, my name is Peter Kaprielian. I'm representing SyTech, a reporting company. And as Peter said, we've been around for a long time. So what I'm going to show you in this session is how you, with some basic Microsoft Excel skills, you're going to be able to produce reports in workbook, PDF, web pages, automatically or on demand, and even distribute those out to web browsers so that users can then interact with those reports through a desktop or a phone. Impossible, you say. Possible, I say, and I'm going to prove it to you today. So let's get to the first slide. So what's covered in this session? I'm going to quickly introduce SyTech, XLReporter, and then we're going to go into how to design a template. And as you can already see, it's very workbook-like. We're then going to publish those reports, and we're going to publish those on the desktop automatically through a scheduler, or we may publish it to a mobile phone and allow people to interact with that template. And then we're going to finish off by, well, how do you start a reporting project? What do we give available so that you can take a VT SCADA system and XLReporter and get running? And we do have a path forward for you. So 25 years, we noticed that we needed configurable software in industry. We were system integrators at the time in 1994. Configurable reporting software was in need, so we came out with Report Manager version 1. As things progressed, we became a Trahedral partner in 2014. And today we're going to talk about XLReporter version 14. We distribute worldwide, automation resellers, system integrators, OEMs. The products used by end users, small facilities, as well as major manufacturers, Fortune 500 companies. It's a good spread, it's very scalable. So as a company, we offer two things: the reporting software and first-class support. And that's exactly what you want to hear if you want to be a potential user. First, let's turn our attention to the software itself. Designed for industry, there's going to be lots of elements of industry in there. You'll be able to click on things and calculate runtimes. You'll be able to click on other things and calculate what the top 5 nuisance alarms are in the VT SCADA. But the key thing here is, and it's this subtext, if you know Excel, you know XLReporter. Because we are going to capitalize on skills you have honed over the years using Microsoft Excel, and we're going to ask you to use this product and not turn your back on those skills. The other thing we provide is first-class support. We're based in Massachusetts, and so we have a dedicated staff that, like VT SCADA, are eager to address your problems. Let's take a quick look at the sort of things XLReporter has done for industry. I always start off with this one because it's also very workbook centric. In fact, if you go to most states in the USA, possibly Canada, you probably can download the state's regulatory reports from their website. We did this exactly that from the state of Massachusetts. We downloaded this. This is a report that has to be submitted every month in this format. Could you imagine just picking up some arbitrary reporting product and trying to repeat this? There would be a ton of work for you to do. We can just import this straight into XLReporter. The same goes for wastewater treatment. The forms are downloadable. In fact, you go out on the internet, there are forms for everything. How to create a Gantt chart, how to do this, how to do that. You put in a question on Excel, you'll get tens of thousands of answers. We've got to use that resource. Manufacturing, energy management. This is a CIP report. You'll find it in the food and beverage. In food and beverage, about 20% of the time is spent cleaning. And so they need to produce this report for audit purposes. Operations. This is one that a manufacturer would need. It's overall equipment effectiveness. It reduces the whole operation down to a score. Something that XLReporter could take and push back to the PLC so it could drive a message board. I have customers that do that. They will take elements of a report and drive it back to the process so that that information can be shown to a broader audience. Alarm management. So you're creating all these alarms in the VT SCADA, and now you want to know information so that you can go and prevent the operator from unnecessary interruption. In fact, beyond that, complacency. You have an alarm that just repeats itself, it chatters. The operator's going to get very complacent. They're just going to, okay. You ask the operator, what's all that about? I have no idea. I just hit okay. That's not a good situation. The ISA recognized it's not a good situation, so they came out with the ISA 18.2 or IEC 62682 if you're in Europe. Batch management. So we've got VT SCADA historian chugging away, recording data, But the customer doesn't want to specify dates and times. They want to specify a product ID or a lot code, and they want to extract the information based on that. So there has to be a little bit more under the behind the scenes that can help that along. XLReporter can do that for us. More dashboards, more regulatory reports. I think we're agreeing this is just endless. Let me show you a couple of implementations with VT-SCADA just to whet our appetite. The first one here is, I call this report as you run, because we have a technology that can go and grab data from live sources. So it's a controller, IO rack, or it could be the VT-SCADA live data. And it can drive that information incrementally into a report. You may say, well, why would we do that? You know, a machine builder would certainly do that. You know, a machine builder probably would want to keep the budget as tight as possible and be able to at least come up with some simple reports to give them a competitive edge on the competition. OEMs. If you go into a control room and you're currently seeing people scribbling numbers down in an Excel spreadsheet, you can migrate them straight to this particular solution. So we're populating this report as you run technology, incrementally or on events. Could be a bit goes high in the PLC. We just add another row of data in the report. Eventually, the report is completed, and what we do is we'll publish that automatically by email, or we'll FTP it to a server, or we'll send it to a printer, or we'll just simply move it over to a file server. But we can also drive that report through on-demand reports, and that could be a desktop or it could be a mobile device. The capability isn't that great here because all you're going to be able to do is see live values. But there's nothing better than somebody walking around a facility and being able to whip out their phone and click, and then they get a current state of play. More importantly is dealing with historical data. So what we have now in the middle of all this is VT-SCADA history, VT-SCADA alarms. I call it a big bucket of data. Now XLReporter has to dip into the bucket and make sense of it and push it out as human readable format, which it does. And it can do that on time, and it can do that on events. And again, the distribution is the same, but the on-demand reporting now becomes a lot richer because the user can specify, hey, I want to get this data out of the bucket from this date to this date, or I want to choose things on an alarm threshold, or some batch ID. I want to enter a batch ID and get some data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the portal. So we'll start top and then we'll work our way down. This was originally a video, but it got a little bit too technologically challenging. So I'm going to just show it you live. I'm going to drag it up here. Let me just drag it up and expand out. All right. So what I'm looking at here is in the URL, I typed XLReporter.net because I have a public facing copy of our web portal so that I can do this demonstration. Everything here is configurable. The splash, the menus at the top, we can embed videos. You can put operating procedures, you name it, you can add it to here. Typically, this would be run behind the firewall. It wouldn't be public facing. It would be in the facility. Think of XLReporter installed on a PC, and maybe the plant manager's looking at this from their office and a maintenance person's looking at it from that. That sort of like brings out a point. Does everybody see the same thing? And the answer is no. There's user authentication that's going to filter out what each individual can see. The other thing that's probably notable here is that we've got a very low footprint. And what that means is that you're not going to need to invest in heavy-duty servers. This is actually running right now in our office alone, but it won't be in a couple of weeks' time because apparently we're going back to the office in 2 weeks' time. But right now it's alone, and it's wondering where everybody is. And I've connected to it from home across the internet. It delivers things very, very quickly, even though it's running in our office on a Windows 10 box. So I just chose a template here. The user who developed this template said, hey, I'm going to let people choose tags. That's why I got a tag picker. And then I can come over here, and the user said, I'm going to restrict the tags that can be selected to these. It's pointless me seeing tens of thousands of tags at this moment in time if I'm just going to show, say, a temperature profile report. I choose my tags, I hit refresh. The request goes out to the office and then comes back, and here I have the live values from my process. I've got animation, I've got graphics, I've got conditional formatting. If you're an Excel user, you should already be recognizing some of these features and saying, oh yeah, I know that, it's conditional formatting. Font, everything is here. Animation. Here's something nice. Let's shrink the browser down to a cell phone. You could do this for yourself. If you just take out your cell phone now and type XLReporter.net, you could be following me on this. I hit refresh. Notice that the whole nature of the report changed. Everything has become stacked now, obviously, because it's on a phone. If I had shown you the original report on a phone, it would have looked like a postage stamp, and you would have been finger gesturing it until the point where you said, oh, I can't do anything. I can't deal with this anymore. Let me take a different report. That was live. Let me just go to Process Insight. Now, this is coming from my historian, so everything is the same, except I can put in a date. I can choose my date, hit OK, hit refresh. And as you can see, it went out to the office and the report got delivered back to me. From here, I could save it locally as a PDF or an Excel file. But it also has given me a little menu specifically because I'm running on a mobile phone. And that's just going to help me navigate to different pieces of the report. If I go back and open that up, so I'm on the desktop and we do the same thing again and hit refresh, you can see now because of the space, we are utilizing a great deal more of the viewport space. The last thing I want to show is my batch dashboard. And the reason why I want to show this is because of this. Notice the import control has changed. And again, that's an aspect of the template design. We're going to go into that a little bit later. But what this did was it called for all the products that were made over last day, last week, last month. And by choosing a particular product, if we take a peek on the sign, it defines a time frame. It's that time frame then that drives this report. So if we want some simple discrete reporting, we've got it. Now this list here came out of a relational database, but it could well be there's another program that's already creating that list for us. We show the database query data first. We let the user choose. We then funnel that back to XLReporter and say, hey, create this report for me, but use this time frame and use these parameters. So that's the web portal. The XLReporter workflow is in 4 quick steps. The first 2 steps is all about template design. And the first thing that we have to decide is, where's our data coming from? Now, it's Could be VT SCADA, automation products, the live, the history, the alarms and events. It might be some industry standards like OPC UA, DA. It might be business standards like SQL Server, MySQL. You have one report that encompasses every one of our connectors. We have over 90 connectors, and there's a prize for any customer that can use all 90 connectors in one report. I think they deserve a prize. But it's not just raw data that we pull from these connectors. We'll probably want analytics as well. Min, max, average. Okay, VT SCADA can give us that out of the box, so that's nothing great there. But then there are industry-specific calculations that don't really fly out of the box with some historians. How many times did a pump cycle? There's a sampling there of some of the industry calculations that we provide you. And then we get into the realms of alarm analysis, top 5 alarms, or even more advanced. When did alarm floods occur? This is an ISA 18.2 metric that has to be measured. Or if you're in the water industry, what were the CT values during a peak flow? So they're a little bit more advanced. Once we've decided on our data, then it's doing the fun stuff, laying it all out and deciding where we want to put the data. But just to make life easier, we give you over 50 out-of-box templates, which you, if you use, will have a solution, and I promise you, in a few minutes. Just answer a few quick questions and the job is done. If you noticed on the our design studio is very Excel orientated. In fact, what this produces is exactly the same as what our design studio in Microsoft Excel produces. The output is the same. You might be asking, well, why do you have 2? Well, we have some hardcore Excel users which just can't wean them off Excel, to use our design studio. So we maintain the studio in both places. Also, our design studio isn't as mature as Microsoft Excel for obvious reasons. So there may be features that you may need that you can only find in Excel. But in both cases, we provide industrial extensions. Over 60 additional functions that we have added to Microsoft Excel, specifically for industry. Import existing reports. If this was a scheduled report, then I'd want to be thinking about naming convention. Do I name it after the current batch in operation? Do I name it after the shift? Do I use some time parameters, or is it a mixture of all that? The scheduler is going to create folders automatically. It's going to create the reports automatically. It's going to populate them and distribute, all taking place using this dynamic naming convention. More importantly, we don't impose any limits, no limits on tags, templates, on the reports. And later on, I'm going to give you a taste of the pricing, and you go, whoa, that's very reasonable for what I'm getting here. All right, the other thing I've got to make clear at this point in time is that I may be sort of bringing out options that is not available across the board on all of our platforms. Some of them may be a higher end, some of them are a lower end. So we would need to have a discussion because XLReporter is marketed on different platforms. But you're going to see the price range, so at least you know where the bounds are. I told you about the template library, and this is a taste of it being in operation. First thing you do is you select out a layout. Notice that we have about 60 or 70 templates that you can choose from SPC, trends, some industry specific. I've chosen the OEE report here. Click. Next thing I have to decide is where is my data coming from to populate this OEE report. So I've chosen my connector. Then I have to answer a few questions, because the report is going to be driven by this information. OEE requires this, or it just doesn't function. It requires these tags. Once you've answered all the questions, you will have a fully functional template ready to go. So let me show you that a little bit more hands-on. What we're seeing here is the XLReporter Project Explorer. And what I have done is I've created this one template called water distribution. If I double click on water distribution, it should open up somewhere. Yeah, on my other monitor. Let me pull that up. You can see that, hey, I could have done this. In fact, you could have done this in Excel if you wanted to. It's got images in it. It's got calculations. It's got conditional formatting. It's got charts. It's got layout. So that would be our first step. And now we want to put some data in here. So we click, and let me just move these two apart so you can see both of them at the same time. And you can see that there are 4 connections to VT-SCADA history feeding various aspects of the report. We'll explore this one. This is putting its information into B21 over here. Let's double click it. And you see that, oh, I don't know. Oh, you see that it has connections to 3 tags, well 1, 2, and 3. And each one of these has been assigned a particular calculation to correspond with the columns inside my report. The spacing here accounts for the columns that are not going to be written to. If I needed to change a calculation, I would click, come over, and choose some other calculation. At this point, if the total flow is in millions of gallons, I could go and scale it down. Or I could put some conditional scaling. On the time period tab, I'm indicating what this report represents. Does it represent a day, a week, a month? In this particular case, it represents a week, starting Sunday at midnight. So that tells XLReporter the amount of data it needs to fetch. And then it has the interval here that tells XLReporter what the calculations are going to be performed over. So as you can see here, we're going to get 7 numbers based on the current week. So if I give XLReporter, a date, so let me go back in time, starting on the 2nd and hit refresh, you can see there the 7 days worth of values for the week starting the 2nd of February. So if this is going to be an interactive report, then the user would choose the week. If this was going to be a scheduled report, then the scheduler would dictate the week, because it would be running every week on the Sunday, and that would dictate the report. There would have to be adjustments made in the scheduler, of course, because it would be running at the end of the week, and it would need to tell this report, hey, I actually want you to consider the beginning of the report as 7 days ago. All that can be done. Now, also, when you're calculating min, max, and averages, the worst thing you want is to include values when your pump wasn't running, because everything's going to come out ambient. So you can go in here and say, only perform these calculations when my pump is running, or my machine is running, or my temperature is greater than 30 degrees, just to eliminate some of that background noise that can distort the metrics. With that connection now on B21, I have a couple of other things to consider. One is my report names. And as you can see here, I've told XLReporter, create annual folders. So next year, it's going to create a 2021. And then for the report itself, use this naming convention, which is a combination of the year and the week number. And again, if you click over here, you have a multitude of choices, even far as specifying internal variables of XLReporter. Now, I always have this problem. Let me pull this over here and close that for some reason. All right, let me continue. And then the last thing I want, I'm going to schedule this report, so I need a schedule. And as you can see, every day on a Sunday, I am going to create the report, but I want XLReporter to believe that the date was 1 week ago, because this is happening at the end of the reporting period, and I need it to be thinking about the start of the reporting period. If this was going to be interactive, in other words, my user is going to be able to choose their date, then I would need to go in and create a little input panel for them. This is what it looks like. We won't go through the settings, but this is what the user will be greeted with, both on the Windows platform or on the web platform if they want to go interactive. It's not necessary to do on demand. A lot of our customers just schedule reports to run every day, every week. They use our emailing option to distribute it out, and that's the end of their story. Other customers like the idea of people going in and specifying timeframes and alarm thresholds. So the next two stages are reporting. We can, as we've already said, automatically on time or event. But more importantly, from that basic Excel template that we created, we can create workbooks, encrypted PDF files, and web pages. We can populate reports while a machine is running. We can populate reports when a shift ends. We can put all those shift reports in a daily report and deliver that to the plant manager. There's a myriad of things you can do with XLReporter. And then we can go on demand, which I've shown you through our Windows client, from our web client. We have a Windows client for customers that just do not want to go into this distributed story. They just want one simple standalone solution, and the Windows client will deliver that to them. And then we have other things like tasks, like zipping up files, moving them to the server, running third-party scripts. We also have things like taking information from a report, downloading it to the process, or taking information from a report and uploading it to the business system. Well, it also provides a number of features like 21 CFR Part 11. What does that give us? It will give us audit trails. It will give us user authentication. And most importantly, it takes us into the world of electronic signatures. Finally, with the report completed, we can distribute it by email, or we can make a static web page out of it and deliver it to mobile devices, or we can create dynamic responsive web pages, where the word dynamic means you can pick and choose what you want to see, and responsive means it's going to appear in different ways on different devices. So let's see a little bit of this in action. I'm going to start off again by going to the XLReporter But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to generate a report from the template. So I'm going to go into the scheduler. And I'm going to start the schedule up, and we're just going to sit here for a whole week and wait for the report to happen. How's that? So somebody get the sandwiches out. No, joking aside, XLReporter has this amazing feature. It's called backfilling. And I can run this schedule line on any time in the past. When I show this to customers, they immediately say, oh, does that mean I can generate all my reports from the last 2 years because I should have those reports and I don't have them? The answer is yes. Just before you go off to lunch, tell XLReporter to run for 2 years, and when you come back, you'll see new folders, new reports, new everything, as if the schedule had run at that moment in time. Let's see that in action, and we'll just go to something last year. Say on the 3rd of November. So let me just put the start and end to, let's just run it from the 3rd of November to the 5th of, no, that would be nonsense. Because it's a weekly report, let's run it from the 3rd to the 24th. Okay, let's hit start. And XLReporter now is running in the background, going through each day, and every time it hits a report date, it fires out that report. So just keep those in mind, because what we're going to do now is we're going to use our built-in viewer, because you got to remember, we're trying to, the product's trying to be completely removed of Excel. If you use our Design Studio, then we need something to view these reports, so we've produced our own Excel viewer as well. This could be integrated into the VT display so the user doesn't even need to leave this environment. You can put a push button down on the VT display, you click it, and you can bring this up. Be good for a standalone, but you could then do the whole thing through a click on the web page to bring up our web. And lo and behold, they are the 3 weeks that I actually had missed. And thank goodness I have, well, actually there are 4 weeks, and thank goodness I got them because the inspector's about to knock on the door. It's all tongue in cheek. Now, the other thing that I can do is, and this will be quite interesting, but then what's interesting to me doesn't necessarily mean it's interesting for everybody else. I'm just going to go and shut this down and just bring up, so I'm just bringing up Google because what I'm going to do is open up my local portal so we can actually see the water distribution. You see, this is a reflection of what was in the project. And if I click on it, you can see I just generated this one. And if I click on this, you can see it's a bit slower because it's on my machine. But you can see there's the report that we just generated. Now it's in web, before it was in Windows. And then you can see that if I shrink this down and click again, it responds to my display. All very, very nice functionality. Easy to implement. And let's just go in here and be bold and say, well, why don't we just jump into the template library and choose, let's just choose something. Maybe, no, let's choose this guy here. Hit next, point it to my historian, call this the VT SCADA trend. Hit next, hit finish. Did I say to you that we were going to get a result in minutes? I may have exaggerated, that was less than a minute. I can go and choose some tags. And choose a date. And there we have it. If I go to the underlying technology, it's all editable in a workbook environment. And if I come over here to my local web portal and click, there's VT trend. It even picks up from where my Windows client left off. And if I click, now I have my charts stacked up as well. So as you can see, with some basic Excel skills, you are going to be able to create reports on the web, in PDF, locally, distribute. There's got to be a solution for almost everybody here. We believe so. That's why we say it's extremely scalable. And so at the low end, when we're just doing live data, this is the price tag. Then when we're in the middle, where we're doing maybe local HMI systems, we're at this price. And then when we're doing a fully fledged VT SCADA solution that's distributed, 5 clients, $25.95, we're at that price. So where would you start? Well, you can download the product at XLReporter.net. You can set up your connectors, and if you are like everybody else in the universe, you're stuck at home, you can use our simulators. Our simulators will give you live data, historical data, and alarms, so you could create almost anything you wanted. More importantly, you are creating something that then can be taken out on site and reused. It's not like you're passing the time here. Spend some time over the design, the look, the feel, and what you have done is probably 90% of the project. All you will need to then do is connect it up to the VT SCADA data sources when you have them next available. Review the media, document library, video library, tutorials. Twice a week, we are giving live workshops. You could come and pay us a visit on those workshops. And if all else fails, we are here. VT SCADA, Trihedral guys are here. We're all here to give you a helping hand to make this a positive experience for you. Thank you so much for your attendance, and I'm eager to hear any questions.
Great work, Peter. That was superb. Really good. Loved the multiple live demos you were doing, actually. So thanks for doing that.
And the dry humor.
I loved it. Oh, really good. So let me just remind everyone as well that if you have questions, we have a little bit more time on this presentation because Peter's bringing us up to the hour anyway. But if you'd like to, please click on the Q&A button. As actually, I thought I was sharing my screen. I realized I'm not. So let me just do that very quickly. So just in case you're looking for where that is again, there it is. So just click on the Q&A button, and we'll still take more questions as we're going along. So I know the answer to this at this point, Peter. So a question in from one of our attendees: does SyTech only focus on SCADA systems for reporting?
Well, we do have a broad base of connectors. I did mention the business standards. We also have relationships with IoT manufacturers, small data loggers. There are small data loggers out there that maybe create CSV files, and people are wondering, can I do something really rich with this other than drop it inside Excel? And in that respect, we have what we call a file stitching mechanism, so that if you have a family of CSV files, we can make them look like a continuum.
Wow, okay, that's quite powerful.
So yes, we do go beyond SCADA.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's superb. One thing that kind of crossed my mind, I'd worked quite a bit in the pharmaceutical industry as well, and and both the 21 CFR Part 11 compliance was one aspect, and that was one question I had to kind of throw out. I was going, okay, well, it's used in that type of environment. But you also mentioned about OEE, overall equipment effectiveness or efficiency, some people say as well. But so, I mean, do you find that people sometimes come along, and because you're presenting those tools, I mean, those templates, that the people kind of cross-pollinate different industries, that they'd use maybe that kind of a tool in a different industry? Is that something that has happened?
I'm not clear on the question, but I'll try and answer it.
No problem. All right.
Things like OEE could be applied to across the board in most industries. It actually is a good measure of how well your production facility is running. It's a crude score. It doesn't give you information on how to fix things, but it does resonate that things are not going in the right direction. So that's good in itself. Mm-hmm. I think that it can be, the whole concept could be modeled on other things besides machines, if that was the point of your question. I think you can apply the concepts to other industries. As for XLReporter, it is applied across many industries. I think I showed you that in the first few slides. And so what we learn from one industry, we do try and apply to others.
Absolutely. No, that makes sense. So, just kind of circle to a couple of other aspects. I mean, application-wise, obviously you kind of dealt kind of a little bit heavier maybe on water, wastewater. What other industries would you say that you really kind of rank in as well?
The thing is, when we sell XLReporter, we don't hear from about 95% of the users. And that's probably true with you. So to be able to put a firm number on A, B, and C is very, very difficult. And it's probably very difficult with VT SCADA because you don't hear from the customer after they've purchased it, which is a good thing, which means that the product is light enough for somebody to go off and do it for themselves. Water, wastewater, certainly. Manufacturing is certainly another area. Oil and gas, another area. Pharmaceutical, when it's machine builders, not the pharmaceutical manufacturers, but the machine builders that build machines for pharmaceuticals, they are good customers of ours. Only this morning I was talking to a system integrator that was installing XLReporter at KushNet. I don't know if you know who KushNet is, but they are the Titleist people. They make the golf balls and label it Titleist. If you go down the road here to Gorelick Farms, they are a milk carton production manufacturer. If you go to Foxwoods, you'll find us in the boiler rooms. If you go to an international airport in California, you'll find us monitoring the escalators and elevators. So it's diverse, but hopefully that's a sampling of some really extreme applications that XLReporter has been used in.
Very good. Another question, just in relation to what about like is there a cloud-based model as well? I mean, you were kind of showing pricing that I think was that pricing more kind of call it standalone on-premise type solutions. Do you have an actual cloud-based version as well? It's purely subscription-based.
No, we don't have a subscription. We have had people use XLReporter on the cloud, and that was inside of the Amazon, was it EC2 or something like a virtual machine. They put XLReporter there, and they were able to work XLReporter there because the data was in a neighboring cloud. and we were able to exchange data from the data cloud over to our side for the reporting. And then we used our web capability to drive that down back to the Terra Earth.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
But in terms of subscription, no, we haven't taken a look at that. We are just a one-time payment with optional subscription.
Sure.
Support.
Very good. In relation to, I'm sure a lot of the attendees watching this were actually looking and kind of maybe oohing and eyeing about the fact that you could go back and generate reports kind of historically, and your example was excellent. So I'm sure a lot went, oh, need to do that. In the likes of we call it mining or oil and gas, where sometimes connectivity can be a challenge, or maybe you're dependent on satellite links different times. Maybe Elon Musk will help redefine that industry with the Starlink concept. But so I mean, from the point of view of kind of back generation, we call it, or backfilling of historical reports, I can imagine that could be quite useful as well in some of those industries too.
Oh, absolutely. It also can highlight patterns that were not that apparent. See, when you go and buy XLReporter, you are basically T = 0 is the date of purchase.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can go and run it, say, for the last 12 months, you can start seeing patterns immediately. Its effectiveness comes in from day one, T = 0. So this backfilling certainly is a feature that, well, it also has another added effect. And that is that, let's say the cleaner pulled the plug out because he or she just wanted to get round that corner. The PC's off now.
Mm-hmm.
But the historian's still chugging away because it's probably set up to be a redundant historian. So it's still got the data. Following day, the engineer goes and reprints all those reports, and we're back to normal again. So it's nice in a sort of an emergency as well, when you need to go back and pull something that you'd missed.
Absolutely. No, that makes a huge amount of sense. Yeah, it's a great feature. It's definitely incredibly easy to use. I think that the power of it is how easy it is to use it. So I think it's definitely a wonderful product of.
Yeah, we've targeted this product to people on the process floor. Mm-hmm. Engineers, system integrators, OEMs. We've tried to keep it in their language, and we try to keep them in an environment that they are familiar with. We didn't want to step them into an IT world with Microsoft reporting services. Hey, we could have developed a Microsoft reporting service, and we could have told you to go and buy a SQL Server 2016 and all the other headaches that come with that. But for some people, that's a bit too much.
Absolutely. No, that makes sense. Yeah, definitely. Well, Peter, we've got lots of comments just saying excellent presentation. Thank you, and looking forward to looking at more anyway. So I think that's it from the point of view of some of those questions coming in. And you actually covered where people can actually find out more information as well, and
mm-hmm.
So I'm sure you get plenty of people actually queuing up to give XLReporter a go as well. Anyway, so fabulous presentation, and it was great having you last week, and great having you again this week. So hopefully we'll have you at a future Automation Village event as well. So.
And let me thank the Trihedral crowd for having me along.
It's our pleasure.
Okay.
So that's great, Peter. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day. And to everyone else who's listening as well, if you've more information, you'll be able to find that info as well if you need it as well from Peter, either through some links you just saw. You'll also find it through the VT SCADA website as well. We've posted the links to each of our presenters as well and their companies. So feel free to check those out as well. And we definitely hope that we'll see you at a future event as well that we're going to be running as well. So if you're around, and be good to have you back as well. So the bus is still on tour. Our next stop is in Houston, so we'll be live in Houston and everywhere else. And we'll be there with the Automation Village virtual trade show with a new lineup of virtual exhibitors, some fun facts and stuff as well about Houston. And that'll be on Thursday, June 11th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Eastern time as well. And it's free as well, like all these events. We will be posting links to this and all the presentations. You'll find it on our YouTube channel over the coming week or two. And I'd just like to personally thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us, and also to our wonderful presenters and their companies. So I hope you enjoyed it, and we look forward to seeing you at another Automation Village event soon. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Bye-bye.